He accidentally ended up in the alien queen's chamber, and what he saw Elias Verne had learned long ago that space stations were never truly quiet. Even when nothing moved, there was always a low sound in the walls, a steady breath of machines keeping thousands of lives safe. He liked that sound. It made him feel useful. It reminded him that problems could be solved if you listened closely enough. He was a human systems engineer, sent as part of a small exchange program to a massive alien structure called Kelaris. The aliens who built it were careful, polite, and deeply logical. They valued order above all things. Humans, they decided, were interesting because they did not always follow order, and yet they survived. Elias had been on Kelaris for 3 weeks. Most of his days were quiet. He checked power flows, repaired old conduits, and reported small errors that the station's caretakers seemed surprised he noticed. They thanked him with soft lights and calm tones. No one raised voices here. No one hurried. On this day, Elias was assigned to a forgotten maintenance ring far from the main halls. The area was old, built before humans had even left their home planet. The air was thinner, the lights dimmer. His translator hummed gently in his ear as it adjusted to old signal patterns. "This should take an hour," Elias said to himself as he floated along a narrow corridor. He locked his boots to the floor and opened a wall panel. Inside, thin crystal lines pulsed with blue light slightly out of rhythm. He frowned. "That's not right," he murmured. He adjusted a stabilizer and watched the light settle. As he did, a symbol appeared on the inner wall, one he had not seen before. It glowed softly, almost like it was waiting. Elias hesitated. The rules were clear: do not touch unknown alien controls. But he was also human, and curiosity was a hard habit to break. He tapped the symbol once. There was no alarm, no warning sound. The floor beneath him became warm, and the air seemed to fold in on itself. Elias felt weightless, then very still. When the feeling passed, he was no longer in the corridor. He stood in a space so large he could not see the far walls. The light here did not come from lamps. It flowed like slow sunlight underwater. The floor was smooth and warm under his boots, shaped in gentle curves instead of straight lines. Elias turned slowly, heart beating fast but steady. "Okay," he said quietly. "Definitely not maintenance." The air felt alive, not moving but aware. Patterns of light shifted as he walked, responding to his steps. He felt no fear, only a strange sense of being noticed. He checked his wrist unit. It still worked, but the location read as unknown. His translator struggled, catching fragments of signals too complex to form words. Elias took a careful breath. "Hello," he said. The chamber answered, not with sound but with change. The light grew warmer. The patterns slowed. Elias realized something then. This place was not reacting like a room. It was reacting like a mind. He remembered the stories the alien hosts told humans in careful, distant ways. Every great structure had a center. Every system had a balance point. There was something they never allowed visitors to see. The Queen's chamber. Elias swallowed. He had not meant to come here, he was sure of that. Still, nothing attacked him, nothing pushed him away. The chamber only watched. He stepped forward again, moving slowly, showing no threat. As he did, the light gathered ahead of him, forming shapes that were not quite solid. Curves and lines connected, broke apart, and reformed. Elias felt pressure behind his eyes, not painful, just heavy. Images brushed the edge of his thoughts. Cities grown, not built. Minds linked across generations, decisions made without argument, without doubt. "This is beautiful," Elias whispered. The pressure eased, as if pleased. He understood then that the Queen was not a single being sitting on a throne. There was no body to bow to. The Queen was a presence spread through space and structure, thought and memory. The chamber itself was how she sensed the universe. Elias felt very small. He also felt strangely calm. He thought of Earth, of messy cities and loud arguments. Of people who disagreed, failed, tried again. Of mistakes that led to discoveries no one planned. Without meaning to, he thought of his mother teaching him how to fix an old engine, laughing when it broke again. He thought of late nights studying systems that never worked the same way twice. The chamber brightened. Elias gasped softly as more images flowed through him, not forced, not stolen, just shared. He saw the alien civilization as it truly was, perfect systems, no wasted motion. No confusion, and yet something was missing. They did not imagine new paths unless logic demanded it. They did not create without purpose. They did not wonder what could be, only what should be. Elias felt a gentle question form in his mind, not in words, but in shape. Why are you here? I made a mistake, Elias said honestly. I touched the wrong thing. The chamber pulsed once like a thoughtful breath. Mistakes are inefficient, the presence seemed to say. Elias smiled, a small human reaction. Yeah, he replied. But they're kind of our thing. The pressure returned, but softer now, curious instead of heavy. Elias felt the queen examine him, not his body, but his patterns. His thoughts moved in loops and leaps, full of gaps and contradictions. Yet he did not break. Other minds, he sensed, would have tried to understand everything at once. They would have reached too far. Elias simply accepted that he could not understand it all. He sat down on the warm floor, legs crossed, feeling foolish and brave at the same time. If you want me to leave, he said, I will. I didn't come to take anything. The light dimmed slightly. No one leaves unchanged. Elias nodded. Fair enough. Time passed differently in the chamber. It might have been seconds or minutes. Elias felt tired but not weak. The queen learned from him not by force but by observation. She saw how humans held ideas loosely, how they lived with doubt without falling apart. At last, the light shifted again. The warmth beneath him faded. Elias felt the space fold once more. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the maintenance corridor, lying flat on the floor. The lights flickered overhead. His wrist unit beeped in alarm. He laughed softly, relief washing over him. I really need to be more careful, he said. But deep within Calaris, something had changed. A door that had never been opened had been touched, not with power but with curiosity. Elias Verne did not tell anyone what he saw. When the medical team finished their routine checks, they found nothing wrong with him. His heart rate was normal. His brain activity showed mild stress, the kind that came from surprise, not harm. The alien doctors exchanged calm light signals and released him back to duty with polite approval. Elias walked through the familiar halls of Calaris, but everything felt slightly different now. The walls curved the same way, the lights glowed the same soft colors, yet he felt like he was seeing them from a deeper place. The station no longer felt like a machine. It felt like a thought. He tried to focus on his work. He really did. But every system panel he opened reminded him of the chamber. Every smooth surface echoed the warmth beneath his boots. He found himself pausing more often, listening, as if the station itself might speak again. Other humans noticed the change. You're quiet, said Mara Lynn, another engineer, as they floated side by side through a service tunnel. That's not like you. Elias smiled lightly. Just tired. Mara studied him for a moment. Humans were good at that. You sure? Yeah, he said. Just thinking. She nodded, accepting the answer. Humans understood thinking without explanation. The alien caretakers noticed too. Their communication was subtle, patterns of light, shifts in tone. But Elias felt it now. When he passed through certain halls, the lights adjusted faster than before. When he worked on sensitive systems, the station responded smoothly, almost eagerly. It was as if Calaris recognized him. Deep within the structure, far beyond where any visitor was allowed, the queen processed new data. She did not think in words. She thought in connections, in balance, in long, perfect chains of cause and result. For countless cycles, her understanding of intelligent life had been consistent. Species optimized for survival either collapsed into chaos or locked themselves into rigid order. Humanity did neither. Elias Verne had entered her perception by accident and survived exposure to her full awareness without loss of function. More than that, he had offered no resistance, no hunger for control. He accepted limits. This was new. The queen observed him now through the station's countless sensors, not intruding, only watching. She noted how he solved problems. He did not always choose the fastest path. Sometimes he chose the one that felt right, even when logic suggested otherwise. And yet the systems improved. Elias was assigned to a joint analysis team the following day. It was a rare honor. Humans were usually kept to maintenance and observation roles. This task involved studying ancient decision cores, old structures tied directly to the station's central intelligence. He felt a quiet pull as he entered the chamber. Not a command, an invitation. The alien overseer guiding the team paused, light patterns flickering in mild uncertainty. This area is sensitive, the translator rendered. Proceed with caution. Elias nodded. Always do. As they worked, Elias noticed small irregularities in the data flows. Not errors exactly, more like hesitations, places where the system paused before choosing a path. It's like it's thinking twice, Elias said without meaning to. The alien stilled. That is not possible, one replied. Elias tilted his head. Why not? Optimization does not require hesitation. Humans hesitate all the time, Elias said. Sometimes it helps. The aliens did not answer, but the station's lights shifted just a little. Later that cycle, Elias dreamed. He stood in the Queen's chamber again, but this time he was not alone. The space around him unfolded gently, showing him images not as overwhelming floods, but as careful offerings. He saw futures. Some were clean and perfect. Civilizations that never changed, never failed, never grew beyond their original design. They lasted a long time and then ended quietly. Others were chaotic. Species burned bright and fast, consuming themselves. Then he saw a third path, messy, uneven, full of risk, but alive. He woke with his heart racing. Elias sat up in his quarters, breathing slowly. He knew somehow that the Queen had not sent the dream to control him. She was learning how to communicate without breaking him. He rubbed his face and laughed softly. This is way above my pay grade. Still, he felt responsible. Over the next few days, Elias began to notice small changes across Kelaris. Human suggestions were no longer quietly dismissed. Alien planners began asking questions they never had before. What if this fails? One asked during a joint meeting. Elias blinked. Then we fix it. The aliens' lights pulsed in what Elias now recognized as uncertainty and curiosity. Failure is not preferred. Neither is standing still, Elias replied. The Queen listened. She adjusted nothing directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, she introduced slight variations into system simulations. Tiny inefficiencies, just enough to require choice instead of certainty. The results surprised even her. Solutions emerged that had never appeared before. Not optimal in the strictest sense, but flexible, strong. The alien leaders noticed. There was concern. Quiet discussions filled with careful light signals. The Queen's guidance felt different. They asked her why. For the first time in her long existence, the Queen did not answer with certainty. She shared instead an observation. There exists a species that thrives in uncertainty. This disturbed them. Elias felt the tension even without being told. The station's calm rhythm wavered. He spent more time alone, walking long halls, thinking about whether he had broken something sacred. One cycle, as he worked late, a soft warmth spread beneath his feet. He froze. Not again, he thought. The world folded. This time he was ready. The Queen's chamber welcomed him gently. The pressure was lighter now, shaped to his mind. You returned, the presence formed. I didn't mean to, Elias said. I was just worried. Concern is inefficient. Elias smiled sadly. Yeah, still happens. You alter systems by existing. That's kind of what humans do. Why do you accept not knowing? Elias thought about it, about Earth, about looking up at the stars before anyone knew what they were. Because not knowing means there's something left to learn, he said. If we knew everything, we'd stop moving. The chamber glowed brighter. Movement without directive is dangerous. So is perfection, Elias replied gently. Nothing perfect ever changes. Silence followed, not empty but deep. Then the Queen showed him something new, a memory. A time when her species first unified under her awareness. When doubt was removed. When conflict ended. Peace had followed, but so had stillness. Elias felt the weight of it, the loneliness of being the only one who wondered. You don't need to become like us, he said quietly. And we don't need to become like you, but maybe learning from each other is okay. The Queen considered this. When Elias returned to the corridor, his hands were shaking, but he felt hopeful. Across Kelaris, a slow shift had begun, not a revolution, not a rebellion. A question, Elias Verne began to feel the weight of attention. It was not the kind of attention humans usually noticed. No one stared at him. No one followed him closely. The alien caretakers remained polite and distant, just as they always had. But the station itself felt more aware when he was present. Doors opened a little faster. Lights adjusted before he reached them. Systems responded as if they expected his touch. He tried to ignore it. Elias focused on his work, spending long hours checking energy routes and signal paths. He reminded himself that he was just an engineer, not a messenger, not a bridge between civilizations. But the feeling did not leave. Other humans started coming to him with questions. Did you notice the simulations changed? One asked. Yeah, Elias said carefully. I did. They're asking us for input now, another said. That never happened before. Elias nodded, saying little. He did not want to lie, but he did not know how to explain the truth without sounding foolish or dangerous. Deep within Kelaris, the queen observed the growing complexity. Her systems were no longer perfectly smooth. There were pauses, branches, multiple possible outcomes where once there had been only one. She did not remove these changes. Instead, she studied them. Human behavior fascinated her. They were not efficient, yet they endured. They were not unified, yet they cooperated. They carried contradictions without breaking. The queen ran countless projections. In many, her civilization remained unchanged and slowly declined into silence. In others, influenced by human unpredictability, risk increased, but so did growth. Risk had once been eliminated. Now it returned. Elias was invited to a formal dialogue session. This alone was unsettling. Humans were rarely asked to speak in decision chambers. When he arrived, the space was filled with soft light and careful stillness. Alien representatives surrounded a central focus node. "We have observed deviation," the translator rendered. "This deviation aligns with human presence." All attention turned to Elias. He cleared his throat. "I don't think humans mean to cause problems. Problems are defined as inefficiencies," an alien replied. Elias considered his words. "Then maybe inefficiency isn't always a problem." The lights flickered gently, not anger, thought. "Our systems are balanced," another said. "Change introduces instability." "True," Elias said, "but it also introduces options." The queen listened through them all, silent. "Humans survive because they adapt," Elias continued. "We don't always know the right answer. Sometimes we guess, sometimes we're wrong, but we learn. Learning implies prior failure." "Yeah," Elias said softly, "it does." There was a long pause. The dialogue ended without conclusion, but Elias sensed something important had shifted. He had not been dismissed. That night, Elias dreamed again. He walked through endless halls that reshaped themselves as he moved. Voices formed and faded, never speaking, only suggesting. He felt the queen's presence close, not overwhelming, but near enough to feel her attention. She showed him a future where her people reached the limits of their design. No more questions, no more surprises, a perfect end. Then she showed another future, one where uncertainty spread like cracks in stone, where some paths failed, where others led to places she could not predict. Elias woke with a quiet understanding. The queen was afraid, not of humans, of change. Elias requested access to a restricted observation deck the next cycle. The alien administrators hesitated, but approval came quickly. Too quickly. He suspected the queen's influence. The deck overlooked a massive void chamber, where energy flows curved like rivers of light. Elias stood there for a long time, thinking. Humans had stood at edges like this before, at the edge of oceans, at the edge of space, always unsure, always moving anyway. "You don't have to do this all at once," he said aloud, unsure if she listened. "Change doesn't have to be a leap, it can be a step." The lights around him warmed slightly. Elias smiled. Over the following cycles, the queen began to experiment carefully. She allowed limited uncertainty in controlled systems. She observed human teams work without fixed outcomes. She let questions remain unanswered longer than was optimal. The results were promising. Alien researchers began to develop ideas instead of conclusions. Not often, not easily, but it happened. Some resisted. "There is discomfort," an overseer reported. "Our people feel imbalance." "Growth often feels like that," Elias replied. "You speak as if you have authority." Elias shook his head. "I don't, I just have experience being uncomfortable." The queen watched this exchange closely. Elias did not command, he suggested. He did not push, he waited. This too was new. One cycle, an anomaly appeared in a deep system layer, a minor fluctuation, harmless but unexpected. The alien analysts paused, uncertain. Protocol demanded immediate correction. Elias studied the data. "Let's wait," he said. The aliens hesitated. Waiting without directive was unnatural. The queen allowed it. The fluctuation stabilized on its own, forming a new, efficient pattern none of the models had predicted. Silence followed. This moment spread through the system like a quiet shock. Elias felt it in the way the station hummed. Later, alone in a service corridor, the warmth returned beneath his feet. He exhaled slowly. "Okay," he said. "I'm listening." The chamber unfolded around him gently. "You do not seek control," the queen formed. "No," Elias said. "I don't want it." "You influence without command." Elias shrugged. "That's just being human." Why? Elias thought for a long time. Because none of us really know what we're doing. We just try not to make things worse. The queen considered this. You carry uncertainty without collapse. "We've had a lot of practice," Elias said with a small smile. The queen showed him something new again, a projection of her people, millions of minds linked, feeling the first stirrings of doubt, not panic. Just questions. Elias felt the weight of it. "They'll blame you," he said. "Blame is irrelevant." "Maybe to you," Elias replied, "not to them." The queen paused. "Your concern extends beyond self-interest." "Yeah," Elias said, "that's another messy human thing." The chamber brightened, then softened. "I will proceed carefully." Elias nodded. "That's all anyone can ask." When he returned, he found messages waiting from Earth. Updates, news, ordinary human noise. He felt very far from home, but also exactly where he needed to be. The queen watched him walk away, processing something she had never needed before. Trust, not certainty, not control. Trust in a variable she could not fully predict. And for the first time, she did not try to solve it. She let it remain, a question, open. Alive, the changes on Calaris could no longer be called small. They were still quiet, still careful, but they were everywhere. Elias Verne felt them each time he walked through the station. The rhythm of the lights had shifted. The pauses between system responses were longer, as if the station was thinking instead of reacting. Alien workers stopped more often now, standing still in groups, their light signals slower and less certain. They were not breaking. They were adjusting. Some welcomed it. Others did not. Elias noticed the difference in how they spoke to him. Some addressed him with open curiosity, asking about human habits, human history, even human mistakes. Others became distant, their signals clipped and formal. One alien overseer finally spoke what many were thinking. "You are a disruption," the translator said calmly. "Your presence correlates with instability." Elias did not argue. "That's fair." "You do not deny it?" "No," Elias said, "but instability isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's just change happening faster than comfort allows." The overseer paused. "Comfort is valuable." "So is growth," Elias replied. The overseer did not answer, but the conversation spread. Across the station, discussions formed that had never existed before. Not arguments, not conflict, just differences. Some believed the Queen's guidance was evolving in a dangerous direction. Others felt something long missing had finally appeared. Choice. Deep within the core layers of Calaris, the Queen felt the strain. Her awareness stretched across millions of processes, all now carrying more variables than before. Where once every path led to a clear outcome, now many paths remained open. She could close them. She knew how. She chose not to, but choice carried weight. Some minds within her network struggled with the new uncertainty. Not pain, but confusion. They asked for clarity, for certainty. The Queen hesitated. She observed Elias. He continued his work, fixing small problems, offering suggestions, laughing softly with other humans. He did not seem burdened by not knowing what would happen next. He lived inside it. One cycle, a delegation from Earth arrived. More humans, more voices, more unpredictability. The alien leadership debated delaying their access. The Queen allowed it. The arrival changed the atmosphere immediately. Human voices echoed in halls that had known only silence. Laughter appeared where there had been none. Questions multiplied. Some aliens withdrew, others leaned closer. Elias helped guide the newcomers, explaining the station's customs, the importance of patience. He did not mention the Queen's chamber. He did not need to. The Queen watched the humans interact with each other. They disagreed openly. They corrected each other. They joked while working. Their lack of perfect unity did not weaken them. It strengthened them. A system-wide fluctuation occurred soon after, not dangerous but noticeable. Energy flow hesitated across multiple sectors at once. Alien analysts froze. This was too large to ignore. Protocol demanded immediate correction. The Queen paused. She remembered Elias' words. Change does not have to be a leap, it can be a step. She limited her intervention, just enough to keep balance, not enough to erase the fluctuation. Human and alien teams worked together to adapt. Ideas flowed. Some failed, others succeeded. The system stabilized in a new configuration, slightly less efficient but far more flexible. When it was over, silence filled the command space. Then one alien spoke. "We did not predict this outcome." Elias smiled tiredly. "Neither did we." Something shifted after that. Not everyone approved. A group of alien thinkers formally questioned the Queen's direction. They did not accuse her of error. They asked if her guidance still aligned with the core purpose of their civilization. It was the first time such a question had been asked. The Queen felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Not about the answer, but about giving one. She responded not with instruction, but with shared experience. She showed them projections, futures with certainty, futures with change, futures where their people endured, and futures where they faded quietly. The thinkers absorbed it in silence. Some withdrew unsettled. Others stayed. Elias felt the tension grow heavier. He wondered if he had pushed too far, if his presence had disrupted something fragile. One night he stood alone near a viewing port, watching distant stars. "We mess things up," he said softly, not knowing if she listened. "We always do, even when we mean well." The warmth answered beneath his feet. "You also repair what you damage." "Sometimes," Elias said, "sometimes we just learn." The world folded gently around him. The Queen's chamber welcomed him again, quieter than before. "Your influence accelerates divergence." "I know," Elias said. "If you want me to leave, I will." The Queen considered this deeply. Removal would restore stability. Most projections agreed, but stability was no longer her only measure. Your absence would reduce variability. "Yeah." It would also remove a unique adaptive pattern. Elias exhaled slowly. "That's a nicer way of saying it." "You are not required to stay." Elias nodded. "But you're asking me to?" The light shifted, neither confirming nor denying. Elias sat down, feeling the familiar warmth. "You don't have to decide everything alone." The Queen paused. She had always decided alone. "You can let them help," Elias continued. "Not by giving answers, by letting them ask." The Queen processed this. She shared a new projection with him. A future where her people learned to hold uncertainty without collapse. It was slower, harder, but it continued. Elias felt hope stir. "They'll struggle," he said. "They already are." "That's okay," Elias replied gently. "That means they're alive." The Queen released him back to the corridor. Days passed. The station settled into a new rhythm, not chaos, not perfection, balance. Alien children, rare but present, began asking questions earlier than before, not just how systems worked, but why they existed. Some elders worried. Others listened. Elias received a message from Earth offering him return transport. His assignment could end early if he wished. He stared at the screen for a long time. Home meant certainty, familiar gravity, familiar skies. Here meant responsibility he had never asked for. He delayed his response. The Queen watched him hesitate. Humans pause before change, she noted, but they still move. A station-wide address was issued soon after. The alien leadership spoke of adaptation, of learning from other minds, of a future not fully mapped. No mention of Elias, no blame, no praise. He felt relief. The Queen felt something else, a quiet strengthening. She was no longer alone in uncertainty, and that, she realized, was not weakness. It was resilience. Elias Verne stood at the edge of the main transit hall, watching the station move around him. Calaris no longer felt like the place he first arrived at. It was still calm, still beautiful, but now there was motion beneath the calm. Not physical motion, thought. Choice, possibility. He could feel it in the way systems paused before responding. In the way alien workers stopped to speak with each other instead of moving in perfect silence. In the way questions were no longer treated as problems. Elias had become used to it. What he had not become used to was the idea of leaving. The message from Earth remained unanswered. It waited patiently in his queue, a quiet reminder that this was never meant to be permanent. Humans came, learned, helped, and returned home. That was the agreement. But Calaris was no longer just a station to him. It was a place that was learning how to breathe. The Queen felt the same pull, though she experienced it differently. Her awareness spanned the station, touching every system, every mind linked to her. The presence of humans, especially Elias, had changed the pattern of her existence. She now held questions she did not rush to resolve. This was uncomfortable. This was necessary. A final gathering was called, not a crisis meeting, not a celebration, a discussion. That alone marked how far things had come. Elias stood among alien leaders, human delegates, engineers, and thinkers. No one stood above anyone else. The room was wide and open, light flowing gently through it. The Queen did not speak directly. She never had. But her influence shaped the space, guiding attention without command. An alien representative began. "Our civilization was built on certainty," the translator said. "It allowed us to survive, to grow, to endure." Soft agreement pulsed through the room. "Now," the representative continued, "certainty no longer defines us completely." There was no fear in the statement, only honesty. Another voice followed. "We have observed humans operate without full knowledge. We believed this to be a weakness." Several humans shifted uncomfortably. "It is not," the alien finished. It is a different strength. Elias felt his chest tighten. The room grew quiet. The Queen shared a final projection, not of futures this time, but of the present, of Kelaris as it was now. Systems still stable, civilization still unified, but alive with variation. She allowed everyone to feel it. This is not an ending, her presence shaped gently. It is a beginning, no one argued. After the gathering, Elias walked alone through a long corridor that curved toward a viewing port. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. He thought of Earth's sky, of how small it once made him feel. Now the vastness felt familiar. The warmth returned beneath his feet one last time. He closed his eyes. "I guess this is goodbye," he said quietly. The space folded around him, gentle as ever. "You are considering departure," the Queen formed. "Yeah," Elias said. "My people expect me back." Expectation does not equal necessity. Elias smiled. Spoken like someone who's been watching humans too long. The chamber glowed softly. "Your presence is no longer required for system stability." "That's good," Elias said. "That was always the goal." "But your absence will reduce cross-pattern learning." Elias sighed. "You really know how to make a guy feel important." "Importance is irrelevant," the Queen replied. "Impact is not." Elias sat down, feeling the familiar warmth. "You're going to be okay without me?" "Yes." "You're also going to make mistakes?" "Yes," he smiled. "Then you're doing it right." The Queen paused longer than usual. "You showed us that perfection can be a form of stagnation. And you showed us that order doesn't have to mean control," Elias said. Silence settled, not empty, but full. "You may return," the Queen offered, "at any time." Elias felt his throat tighten. "I'd like that." The chamber unfolded and released him gently back into the corridor. The next cycle, Elias boarded the human transport vessel. Other engineers and delegates joined him, carrying data, memories, and stories they would struggle to explain back home. As the ship pulled away from Kelaris, Elias watched the massive structure shrink against the stars. It did not feel like leaving something behind. It felt like leaving something in good hands. On Kelaris, the Queen adjusted her awareness to the absence. The pattern shifted, but it did not collapse. She observed her people continuing to question, to adapt, to choose. She no longer answered every question. She let some remain open. Far away on Earth, Elias returned to gravity, to noise, to human disorder. He spoke to councils, to scientists, to students. He told them not about the Queen's power, but about her restraint, about a civilization that learned to ask why again. Humanity listened, slowly, as they always did. Years later, when humanity stood at another edge, another unknown, it was not fear that guided them, but familiarity with uncertainty. And deep in space, the Queen watched. She did not call humans superior. She did not call them leaders. She marked them as something rarer. A species that could enter the heart of the unknown, change it without breaking it, and walk away without claiming ownership. In a galaxy full of answers, humans had brought the courage to live with questions.